Guys, it's an honor and privilege to be asked to address you this afternoon and share with you some personal thoughts on lessons in leadership that I've gleaned over the years, both through experience and through interaction with mentors and leaders that I admire. Before I start my kind of formal remarks, I want to emphasize for each and every one of the guys in the room that you guys have a tremendous opportunity in Sigma Phi Epsilon, not just by your presence here today, but by what you'll do in SigEp and for SigEp over your undergraduate career. SigEp, and part of the reason why I maintain my involvement in SigEp at the level that I do, is because I truly believe that SigEp provides a unique and wonderful laboratory for young men to learn from each other, to practice leadership skills, to make mistakes, to learn from those mistakes, to be surrounded by brothers who pat you on the back when you succeed and who call you out when you fail to reach your full potential. And all of these things are available to you by your smart choice to join Sigma Phi Epsilon fraternity. So for that, I congratulate you and I thank you, and I look forward to your successful experience with Sigma Phi Epsilon. It's appropriate and really fitting today that we're at the inaugural Shawn Mckenna Leadership Academy at this Carlson Leadership Academy. And in particular, because this is about lessons in leadership. Shawn McKenna's life was a lesson in leadership. So let me tell you a little bit about Shawn. Shawn Mckenna was, as was said, a proud alumnus of the University of Maine and an even prouder member of the Maine Alpha Sigma Phi Epsilon chapter. After graduating from University of Maine, Shawn went to work for the headquarters staff and quickly distinguished himself as a rising leader and real difference maker on what was already a very, very powerful staff. After making his mark on our SigEp staff and on our fraternity, Shawn went to work for one of the world's foremost companies in sales and marketing, Procter & Gamble, and was a rising star at P&G. He distinguished himself there, was promoted a number of times, and became a significant leader in their sales and marketing organization. But in the late 80s and early 1990s, there was a passion that was burning inside of Shawn that he had to fulfill. He had this entrepreneurial urge. He had this desire to lead in a different way and a better way, a bigger way. And so with the collapse of the Soviet Union, Shawn Mckenna, of all places, moved to Russia to establish, of all things, an American-themed diner in what was a former Soviet republic. And with one diner, he started what became an international business. As that business grew and prospered, he had additional restaurants, additional concepts, ultimately led to a hospitality and importing business that was significant, all in the wild, wild west of the former Soviet republics. As Shawn, a little bit later in his career, began to struggle with some serious health issues, and as he began to fight his heroic battle with cancer, Shawn realized there was another passion that was within him that he wanted to fulfill. And so he moved back to his beloved Maine, went back to his University of Maine, and began teaching. He had a passion to teach others, to share his leadership experiences and his life experiences for the benefit of others. So Shawn went from successful staff guy to corporate executive flying high at Procter & Gamble to entrepreneurial, setting international businesses together, to then becoming a teacher. But Shawn was also a family man. And I want to tell you a little bit about this. Is Shawn and his 3 kids and his lovely wife, Deb. My clicker is not working, so Shawn and his family. Shawn was also a beloved grandfather and devoted grandfather. One of Shawn's proudest accomplishments was his wife, Deb, his lifelong partner, devoted and loving wife, Deb. Shawn would frequently say that he married right when he met Deb. You asked Deb, she said it was the other way around. Shawn was a tremendous man, and we're honored today to be involved in the inaugural Shawn Mckenna President's Academy. But as a leader, Shawn was also an absolute character. He was fun, he was playful, he was thoughtful, and he knew how to live life. He was also adventurous. He loved life, and he lived it to the fullest. But he also had a remarkable talent and ability to celebrate. Celebrate with family, celebrate with friends, and celebrating the victories and accomplishments of others. All of these traits combined made Shawn an extraordinary leader an extraordinarily effective leader, which is why I liken to his life being a lesson in leadership. So as we talk about leadership, there are thousands of books. Many of us have read them, seen them, heard them, books on tape, television shows. There's thousands of concepts around leadership. I'm not trying to recite those at this event. My objective is to have some simple concepts around leadership that you can take home and begin to apply and begin to practice. And if you boil all those books and all those tapes and all those webinars down to 4 simple things, in my mind and from my experience, it's these things. You can lead from anywhere. The criticality of vision. The need for courage. And the importance of being human. So let's talk about some of these. When I say lead from anywhere, what I mean is each of us in the room have a unique opportunity to be a servant leader all the way up to the head of your organization, whether it's president, CEO, whatever organization you're involved in, and everything in between. You can lead from any position in life, anything that you're involved in. There's an opportunity for leadership. You just need to seek it out. And in leadership, most people think of this sort of hierarchical notion of leadership, where there's a president and vice presidents and committee chairs and committee members and chapter members, or in larger organizations, even a bigger pyramid or hierarchy of leadership. Effective leaders know how to turn that around, how to invert that, and find everyone in that organization a way for them to contribute and lead in every aspect that they can. In my organizations, the most innovative leadership that I saw in my career and in my business came from people that didn't have designated leadership positions. People that at times would surprise you, whether it was a truck driver that had an idea about route efficiency that led to an entirely different dispatch organization, whether it was a product technician who invented a new product that led ultimately to an entirely new business unit, whether it was an industrial and technological analyst who led to revolutionary e-commerce in our industry that transformed our business. None of those people were in formal leadership roles, but they found ways to lead in what they did. Each and every one of you has an opportunity to lead. And simply put, it's an opportunity to make something or someone better. So my challenge for you today is to think about that and find ways and things that you're doing to make someone or something better. Lead from anywhere. The second concept that I want to talk about is criticality of vision. And guys, this is what most people struggle with. If I did one thing right in my career, it was the ability to develop, communicate, and reinforce a vision for my company. If I did nothing else, and I surrounded myself with bright people, that was enough. And the reality is most young leaders struggle with the vision thing because it's hard. We're so focused on goals and SWOT objectives and all the things that make up a business plan or a way to make your chapter better that we forget the single most important thing, which is the vision. And so a suggestion that I would have, and one that Shawn shared in his leadership classes at the University of Maine, is when it comes to the vision thing, simply imagine the end and then work backwards. But until you have that end figured out, don't worry about the rest of the stuff. And however long it takes you, make sure that you have that end state, that end goal clear in your head such that you can communicate it to others. And when you do that effectively, leadership becomes much more easy and much more effective for you. And the reality is that as you begin to communicate that vision, don't focus solely on the what, but on the why. Because the reality is that as you communicate that vision, you have to inspire others so that they share the same vision. And talking simply about what it is isn't enough. You've got to talk about the why. So the criticality of vision is extraordinarily important when it comes to leadership, both young and old. The third point that I want to talk about is the need for courage. Each of you, as you pursue leadership opportunities, will inevitably distinguish yourselves from those around you. And in doing so, and as you begin the process of critical thinking and change management, all these types of things that leadership requires, you distinguish yourself and you also subject yourself, perhaps, to opportunities for those to cast out, shoot arrows, whatever people may be inclined to do. You have to have strength of courage to be able to stick to what you believe in, stick to what you know is right, stick to achieving your vision and communicating with others, and that doesn't come easy. It requires courage. But I know that each and every one of you has that courage and has the potential to utilize that courage. Otherwise, you wouldn't be SigEps. And when I think about courage, and I think about Shawn Mckenna, there's no greater example of courage than Shawn's later years in life. As he fought with his battle with cancer, he exemplified one of his key components when he talks about his leadership skills and his leadership style. And it was, do what is the hardest first. When it comes to courage, whatever your challenge is from a leadership potential, find what is most difficult, what you're most fearful of, and do it first. Because once you do that, the pathway from that point on is much easier. Focus on what's hardest first and do that well. Shawn did that with his battle with cancer. He fought like hell. And part of what he fought for and part of how he fought was in being prepared. Not only do you have to do the courage to fight for what you fear and do what you fear, you have to have the preparation to be successful in fighting that. Whether it was a cancer treatment, a surgery, or recovery after excruciating medical procedures, he fought like hell ahead of time and prepared so that he could conquer his biggest fear. So courage is a key element of leadership. And the final point on that, and too many leaders fall victim to this at times, never, guys, take credit for other people's accomplishments. And let me tell you why. When you recognize other people's accomplishments, perhaps even at your own failures or your own shortcomings, that's courage. Because the reality is, the more you build people up, the more you recognize their accomplishments, the more you're viewed as a leader. Nothing's worse than a leader taking credit in a sort of non-courageous way for something that they weren't responsible for. And the inverse of that is, you're not building up the people around you that did accomplish that and celebrating their victories. So courage is a key component in a lesson in leadership. And the final point is, guys, be human. Too often I see young leaders and frankly old leaders who, when they reach that leadership position or when they begin to assert themselves as a leader, they lose sight of the very traits and characteristics that led people to view them as a leader in the first place. They become so focused on the goals and the objectives and the responsibilities, which is all admirable, it's all necessary, but they lose sight of the one thing that most often caused people to view them as a leader in the first place: their human traits, their playfulness, their creativity, their enthusiasm, the things that make us human. When I took over the business from my father, his one parting remark, and I never understood it at the time, but as I got more experienced in my role, I did. His one thing was, Jay, have people view you as an overpriced cheerleader. Okay, what does that mean? And the reality wasn't as much about the overpriced thing, it was more about the cheerleader. Find people winning. Celebrate that. Recognize it. Because it leads to more winning on people's parts, more success for you and for others as a leader. Shawn had a wonderful ability to basically, for people, as he was introducing people or explaining people or interacting with people, he had the ability to give them a reputation, a good reputation they could live up to. When he was introducing somebody, he would say, Jay is the most XYZ talented person, has done this, done that. Many cases, it was perhaps above what may have been deserved, but he was giving the person that he was recognizing or talking to the ability to thrive and strive for a reputation that was good. It's a human ability. And no one, in my view, did it better than Shawn in terms of being playful, thoughtful, considerate, and just a hell of a lot of fun. And the reality is, from a leadership perspective, have fun with it. If you're not having fun as a leader, you know what? It's time to hand the baton or hand that role to somebody else. Because it should be fun. Learning should be fun, experimenting for fun, and in particular, doing it with your fraternity brothers around you and with you, supporting you, is fun. And that's what Sigma Phi Epsilon provides. It's a wonderful opportunity you guys have. It's a wonderful opportunity that I've experienced for 30 some odd plus years. And my hope for you is that you commit yourself to continuing to develop as leaders, practice as leaders, and do it as brothers in Sigma Phi Epsilon. So in closing, 4 basic concepts. Lead from anywhere, criticality of vision, need for courage, and importance of being human. Boil it all down into that, and you'll be successful as a leader in whatever leadership endeavor you pursue. I'm confident you can do it. I'm here to help you as we go through this weekend and the President's Session and otherwise, and I thank you for your time this afternoon, your attention, and for being brothers in Sigma Phi Epsilon. Thank you.
Everybody says